the generation that's being sent to secondary modern schools after the war, that is, kids who are turning 11 from about 1948, 49 onwards, who are being thrown into a new system, which mostly their parents have no experience of, on the basis of the 11 plus. Over the course of the 1950s, as that generation grows and matures, partly for reasons, natural in a democratic society, is that people think, well, why are some kids going to a really good school, by the way, funded, the grammar schools were funded at a funding level way above the level of secondary modern schools per capita. Why are we sending some kids to good schools with high funding levels and other kids to poorer schools with low funding levels? So people just started asking that basic democratic question. Then they started asking also the question, and this is a world in which social mobility is now being considered as something feasible for everyone. You're not confined any longer to your class. Well, why are we going to be confined to, say, working class status because we've gone to a working class school? I mean, why can't our kids have a chance to grow and develop and move upwards in the social scale? And why is the education system apparently an obstacle to that? But actually more directly and more blatantly, secondary modern schools found that they had lots of kids who had failed the 11 plus, who were perfectly capable of passing O levels, and they started offering them O levels. That's what the parents wanted. The parents wanted kids to take exams which would get them white-collar jobs and get them out of the working class. And so if you go back to those social scientists who said, it's sort of puzzling because the people who are passing 11 plus are the people who should pass the 11 plus because they have the measured intelligence which the 11 plus measures, but they don't seem to be more socially diverse. They don't seem to be more working class. And the social scientists who had observed that then observed those same kids having failed the 11 plus, going to a secondary modern school and passing an exam which they were supposed not to be able to pass because they'd failed the 11 plus. And they were thinking, oh, well, something's happened between the age of 11 and 16. They actually acquired intelligence, even at the school which is not supposed to be cultivating their academic talents. And they can pass the 11 plus. So why have we gone to the trouble of selecting 25% for the grammar schools in the first place when we could just, find internal means in the school for deciding at various stages who can and should take exams and who can't? And so, well before Harold Wilson was elected in 1964, most English local authorities, all Welsh local authorities, and all Scottish local authorities were beginning to plan for a move away from the bipartite system towards what was increasingly known as a comprehensive system, where the 11 plus was no longer administered and all kids went to the same school at 11, where they might then be taught in different ways and for different purposes, but without the humiliation and possibly socially limiting factor of the 11 plus